Hazel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
I know. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too. So for reference, we went to college together.
We went to undergrad together.
Yes.
Do you know I don't really recognize the undergrad as my college? Like when people ask me what school I went to, I always say graduate school.
Really? Where did you go to graduate school?
Fordham University.
Girl, I don't even know what it is.
Girl, somewhere.
But that's what you claim. You don't claim.
I don't.
Well, see, I didn't go back to school. So that one degree is the one we keeping.
Okay.
To the grade.
Period.
We ain't going back.
Period. But you know what? It's the foundational.
You know what? You're right. You're right. You're right.
Fine.
So it's all good. We know that we came from, Route 13 kids, whatever that was. I don't know. I don't know if that's a
Route 13.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been almost 10 years since I've seen you, which is so crazy.
You're married. I'm about to get married.
Yes, fiance.
It's crazy.
Your ring is amazing.
Thank
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
We got a chance to say hi to Mike before we got on the camera.
We did.
He's so nice.
He's amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So happy for you.
Thank
so happy
you.
for you. I know that when we were in undergrad, even though you had a very big personality, very eclectic, very expressive, you were on the straight and narrow. Like you didn't do too much.
This is what I love about talking to people that I know from way back in the day, because you'll have a perception of who you are in your head, but it's never the same of what people think of you. So I always love to hear how people saw
perceive
me.
You, yeah.
And it's crazy that you say that, because in retrospect, I agree. But in the then, I used to think I wasn't on the straight and narrow enough. Like I was too.
Well, I mean, as an African child, are you your brother's older than you?
Yeah, I have one oldest, and then I'm the second oldest. So technically,
you're the oldest girl. Yeah. And I feel like growing up African, you're never going to do enough right.
That's fact.
Unless you can become a surgeon in high school.
Yeah.
You just will accept you. Exactly.
Even in adulthood.
Yeah.
It will never be enough.
No, there's always something, like for me, I literally have, people make jokes about African fathers being like, why A-? Why not A+?
Yeah.
What happened to the plus? That's because your phone, right? And it's, so I think that because of that pressure, we always are super hypercritical of ourselves as oldest African girls, or just women of color, really, I feel like culturally, right?
I saw a tweet like that.
It's true. And I also think that what we could have been doing, because I feel like I was also on the straight and narrow in college. I didn't get into too much, right? I had my moments.
But you were always a personality that if I saw you, it stuck with me.
Really?
Like, yeah, it was never like, oh, I just saw you and that was it. Like, whatever the interaction was, it stuck with me. You was
memorable.
Always memorable. And you were also RA too, so that was dope.
You were RA as well. Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like in every space that you work, you would be compliant, but you are absolutely going to do it your way.
Ooh,
you will. So you won't stray too far, but you are absolutely gonna do it your way. And I feel like that's one of the things that people gravitate to you about, because you have a fearlessness about you, and I don't really attitude about you where it's like, no, I'm not gonna hurt nobody, I'm not gonna do harm to anybody, but I'm absolutely gonna do this my way. I even remember your posters used to be very Afrocentric, very eclectic, and I'd be like, who's cutting shit out?
Yo, you said whose wall is this?
Even the activities that you did. And I vividly remember that. And I always I
have pictures of those on Facebook somewhere.
I'm sure you do, because it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, in the die cut room.
But I just enjoyed it. It was one of my favorite parts about being an RA was monthly boards. Like, okay, I got to do my board this
My thing was always the activities. We were going to have
the floor meetings?
Not floor meetings, but we would do, at least in our building, we would do activities every month where everybody knew on the third Friday we're all gonna get together.
You're right.
And we would have crazy, we did manhunt games that were all over campus that lasted the whole damn semester.
That's fire. Where was you at?
Minokin.
That was in the circle?
In Tito's room.
That was in the little... I was in
one of the newer buildings.
I was in what is it?
Martin.
St. Martin. I was in St. Martin. Yeah.
Oh my God.
With Shanita. Shanita was my roommate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I
haven't seen her in forever too.
I miss her.
Yes. Oh my God. So so I feel like you've always been that girl. Always been. Weren't you in Passion for Fashion and ASA and all that stuff?
I was in ASA for sure.
Yes.
I think I was just intrigued with Passion for Fashion, but I
then
never
you were
actually joined.
I'm not on my level with this fashion.
Not
shit.
even that, because back then I wasn't fully into understanding that who I am counted as runway material. I always thought that I was just too out of the box to be considered Passion for Fashion girls. They was perfect walk, very poised.
They were very like
put together.
Yes.
And I didn't all the way feel like I was back then, but not like in a bad way, but just more so like I just feel like I'm too, to your point, too free to just be in this structure of we're walking in a runway.
Yeah. And it's crazy because that ended up lending itself to your business, how you give back to the community. You've always been really big about community, even from when we were at Salisbury, right? And I just think that's really beautiful that over time and over the years, you've really refined and just leaned into the things that at one point, and I can relate to that too. I think a lot of us can, right? As we get older and get more confidence, it's like the things that we're like, oh, but I'm different. I don't, trying to make it small and stuff it down and push it down.
You'll try to run from it until you can't run no more.
It's exhausting.
It's very exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I love that. I remember vividly. So I know that you graduated with a social work degree and then you went and got your master's. God bless you, because I don't know how you did it. But you did that. And then you had this great job. You moved to New York. And, you know, like when you're in college, you always keep track of like, okay, what's everybody doing?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, she moving away and doing the damn thing. And I love that for you. But then like, I remember all of a sudden it was like, I'm leaving my job.
I had
like,
enough.
So tell us about that.
Ooh, where do I start? So I would say it happened around the ending of grad school. So of course I went to grad school in New York, loved New York. But once I graduated, it was really just like, are you going to stay in New York or kind of like go home? The cost of living in New York was disgusting.
Crazy. I don't know how, New York, LA, San Francisco, I don't know how people do it. I just don't. I don't.
Disgusting for such a small space. And I remember going back home for the summer and working in Maryland, my hometown, for the summer, and having like my first real big girl job.
Yeah.
And just looking around, being like, yo, this cannot be life. There's no way.
What's her time age? 65? What is it?
I can't. No. I was literally like, yo, this cannot be it. I started to like really like what somebody would call meditation or like fasting or just really like focusing, honing in on like, what is it that you need to be doing after? Because this is not it.
Yeah.
And I remember I struggled with it for a while, but eventually I came to the fact of you're staying in Maryland. You're staying in Maryland and you're going to get another big girl job and maybe just stack. So I stayed with my mom. And
I didn't even know you went back to Maryland.
And I never announced it. I never announced it because a part of me was embarrassed that I came back. Part of me was embarrassed that I came back. A part of me was embarrassed that I didn't know I wasn't okay with the fitting into the, okay, after you graduate, you work. I was just embarrassed about that whole part of like not understanding what it is I was trying to do. I remember just being very like low key. Got my big girl job and I just got to a point where I burnt out. It was a transitional home job where we housed women and children, and we allocated funds for rent if they needed rental assistance. And I was a case manager and just overworked. So many cases to deal with, but I'm also driven by the people. So I would just go above and beyond just to.
Would you say you're an empath? I feel like.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Didn't know that at the time. Just kind of
so like taking all that energy all day, every day on top of whatever other stuff you got going on at home.
Very much so. Didn't even know, couldn't compartmentalize that at the time.
Wow.
But burnt out. And essentially that year, it was 2018 November. I said, didn't finish my case note, didn't finish nothing. I just was out. I had never felt so burnt out or done in my life. Packed up all my stuff and said, I'm going to Ghana and I'm about to just live in Ghana.
I was telling you in the car before we got here that one thing about Hazel, she gonna go to Africa.
I'm a roll.
She gonna have a little sabbatical.
I'm a roll every time.
So what was that the first time? Like, I know that you had been back home before, obviously, right? Because you're, and actually I didn't know until I was doing my homework on you, that you're only one of your parents is from Ghana. The other parent is from Liberia.
Just found out this past June.
Are you serious?
That is incorrect.
Girl, not an identity crisis.
Yeah, girl, a whole identity crisis. A whole one. Actually, this is the first podcast where I'm actually saying it publicly, but this past June I found out that that's actually incorrect.
So then what's
I'm fully Ghanaian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing at all.
It's not a bad thing, but I'm a little conflicted. I'm just like, well, who were you this whole time?
Right.
But I haven't like faced that yet. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, bro, I really thought that I was half black.
Yeah.
By technicality, I am, and because that's what I was told. But through research, I found out that I was fully Ghanaian.
Was it like an ancestry thing, or was it like a family member who's like
family member?
Wow.
And you know how they just be so chill about it, like, girl, you was not Liberian.
Who told you that? Who said that?
And then they tell you the truth like it's nothing, and then just walk away. Like,
and now you're like reconciling, like, okay, well, who am I? But I feel like you've always repped Ghana very, very hard. Like, I remember you had this jacket in school.
I missed that jacket.
You don't have it no more? It was so
I left
fly.
a lot of clothes in New York and never went back for them.
Wow.
A lot of my clothes are still in New York.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that jacket was fly.
I made it.
I know you did.
Yeah.
Because it was always, don't ask Hazel what she wearing. Because this, oh girl, I put this together. Thrift store.
Thrift store and
I remember, I vividly remember, you were posting so much about thrifting that I felt like in my mind, like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Girl, I went in a thrift store. I was there for 2 hours. I walked out with one sock.
No.
Or something like a blazer or something. I was like, I don't have the time to do this.
And
like,
you
this is
just got it just to say I got something.
Yeah. But you know what? I did wear the hell out of that blazer.
I'm telling you.
And it was really good quality. At the time, Michael Kors was popping. And it was like brand new with tags. I think I got it for like $10.
Oh, still.
And I was like, you can't tell me nothing. What?
Still.
And then I was like, but I'm not doing it again.
It's definitely very tedious. But I don't know what about the process of like searching for clothes makes me feel good. Like, I don't know.
There's also a system to do it. So you're maximizing your time. I didn't know. I literally went to a random place in Harlem and
probably was lit.
Girl, it was row after row after row of stuff.
I be loving it. I be like, can we get some water in this?
Do we have snacks?
Yeah, we got snacks. Cause I'm be
Start
here
my
all
tab.
Day. Yeah,
it's the 50% off Wednesdays.
I swear. What? I miss it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, so like, and I'm notorious for like the podcast be all over the place because we just be rapping. so you decided that you were going back home, very very low key. It's very interesting. You are definitely one of those influencers. I mean, I know you in real life, but you're definitely one of those influencers where there's a lot going on your stories, but you really never have any idea what's really going on with you. And I think that you do a really good job of making people feel like they're connected and they know that your heart and they know like, okay, I love her energy. I love her. I love what she stands for, but they really have no idea. So you're back home. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows I'm back home.
And then what?
I get the big girl job. I quit. I go to Ghana. 2018, November, I quit.
Yeah.
I pack up all my stuff. I go to Ghana December of 2018, thinking I'm never coming back. The same year I met Mike, actually.
Really?
Same year I met Mike. I met him in Ghana.
Stop it.
Yep. And that time in Ghana was very transformational for me because I don't know if it was the air. I don't know if it was just seeing my grandma. I don't know if it was being home. It really put into perspective what was important to me and who I was and to stand in that and to understand that I could make it without having to work a job.
Did you feel like when you were at work, like you were stifled? Because you have such a big personality.
Yeah.
Like, how was that?
It's just like you're in a prison. Like, very much like, this isn't me. Added on to that, it was a 2-hour commute to go to work and a 2-hour commute to come back.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
So that also made it really hard for me because it was like, okay, I'm working 8 hours just to travel 2 hours from and 2 hours back. So it's like, my whole life is dedicated to work.
Yeah.
At this point. And I wasn't getting paid nothing. I'm a social worker. Social workers ain't getting paid no money.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like, I was really it was just all for nothing. Long story short, trip changed my life. Met my now fiance that same trip. And it really put things in perspective. And I think from then is when I had the confidence. Obviously, I came back. Once I figured that out, I'm like, you can go back to America. It's not America. It's not that. It's you had to get your mind right to come back and be you. And be me. When I came back, I started just...
You were definitely on some eat, love, pray shit. I remember watching your stories like, I just need to smell the air in Africa because what is happening over there?
What? Gone with the wind.
You were eating so good.
So good, feeling good, working
dancing.
out.
It was so beautiful to see. Like from the out, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I know she needed this.
Yeah.
And I hope she got whatever. And you came back a different person.
I swear. Like when I'm 90 years old and I'm writing my book, that has to be like the turning point of my life because I don't know what would have happened if I didn't go to Ghana.
Girl.
To be completely honest with you, like I don't know what would have happened. And it's funny, I've been to Ghana after that and haven't felt exactly like that before. So
Really?
I really think I was drawn to go back home.
It was a
at that
moment
time.
that
I
you had to have.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
And so you came back, you have this new sense of energy, right? And at what point was it that I know that there was a point where you had like saved your money and intentionally wanted to go into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that story.
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And I'm a great saver. I think that's what saved me a lot. But also, entrepreneurship was different before COVID. This is before the pandemic.
This was several years ago.
This was before the pandemic.
And I think even entrepreneurship at that time wasn't as mainstream as it is now.
Absolutely.
Everybody did not have an ebook and a course and a webinar and a thing, a hoodie.
Yeah.
So I remember being very inspired, like, oh, like one of ours is like doing it. Like there's a different energy that you have with inspiration when it's someone that you know, someone that you've seen, someone who's experienced loss and also great wins, right? And you mustered up the energy to do that. And I was like, okay, if Hazel can do it, I know I can do it, right?
I love that people can be inspired by my story somehow, because I'm just inspired by life in general. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you were getting ready to say that you were a great saver and entrepreneurship was like different. It was hard.
Entrepreneurship was different, but it was also a little bit more lucrative. And I don't know if it was lucrative because I wasn't used to making that much money without having a job. It was like FISTS UP AFROS OUT was like kind of fresh, and I had more time to put in what I was only putting in half of the time, and sales were through the roof and more time for me to do everything. And it was just a different world. Like the amount of, because I used to just be sneaking, doing orders that
get it in when you can.
Yeah, but having free reign to do it was like, yo, the world is mine. This is absolutely insane.
Can you recall the moment in your business where you're like, I can really, really do this?
Yeah. I would say the very first time we premiered the shirts, which was at Justice or Else with Louis Farrakhan that came to DC.
I remember. I think I went to that walk.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I flew all the way home to make sure I could be there.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal. And I had told myself, you're going to wear these shirts at this. I was supposed to sell them.
I was about to say, they did have tables of like merch all over the place. So you didn't actually sell them there, did you?
What ended up happening was the guy who was doing my t-shirts, he just messed them up. So literally only 2 survived. So I remember going to Justice or Else with my younger brother, the one who I used to take pictures with. And I just had him wear one and I wore one, and that was that. And I was like, if I get good reception at this March, I'm gonna think I can do it. That same night, I had so many DMs. This is before online store. This is before almost
Etsy
everything.
blew up and everything
This is before all of that.
Yeah.
So
people are walking up to you and like, oh my God, where'd you get that from? You're like, DM me, I sell these.
Absolutely.
And your DMs are crazy.
Went crazy.
Wow.
Went crazy. At that point, I was like, you can do this. You can do this.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So did you have like a lot of inventory? Because like our audience are predominantly entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. And I think it's really easy for people to see somebody on social media and they just think it happens overnight and they don't see the behind the scenes. Like even the podcast shit is hard.
I'm
tired.
You. Yeah.
I told you, I was like, I love you and I'm so glad we're doing this. But we were both tired because you had your news thing, which we're going to get to in a little bit today, which I'm so proud of you for.
Thank you.
But it's not easy. It's hard.
You have to really want it. It has to be a passion and you have to push through. If not for that, you're not going to be able to sustain it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get all these DMs and then fast forward to you have your own store, online store, you're selling on Etsy, you're selling like, walk us through like the evolution of your brand after that point.
Yeah, so before I get to that, to answer your original question, I didn't have a lot of inventory. That time, I was still in between figuring everything out with the t-shirt guy who messed up the initial shirts.
Girl.
Ended up taking him to court and then having to find a new printer. But I was really making everything by order. Like if somebody ordered it, I would get it made. If somebody ordered something, I would get it made. So I never had inventory.
Okay.
I didn't have inventory until I had a certain amount saved. I don't remember what that amount was, but it was something like $500. Like, okay, when I get $500 saved from profits, then I'll get like 10 shirts. I remember I was getting like 15 shirts at a time. So I would do like 10, 10, 10, 10 long sleeve, 10 short sleeve, 1 hoodie, you know, that kind of thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, and I also just didn't have, I'm still at my mom's house, didn't have the space for inventory. Didn't know what it all entailed until I started to get into it. Didn't have an Etsy store up until this point. Didn't get the Etsy store until DM started getting too, like,
it was just out of control.
Out of control, and I was losing orders. I was forgetting to send people, because there was no form of like, this has been sent out, you know?
There's no organization.
No organization. So at that point, I got the store, and the rest is history.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Was there a point through your journey with FISTS Up Afros Out, because I feel like you were also really divinely timed, because I think you had enough traction that by the time, unfortunately, when George Floyd had passed away and was murdered, you know, you had a really great brand, and like I feel like that was like also like gasoline on top of that.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yes, but there was Trayvon around the same time as Justice for Else?
Yes.
Justice for Else, I want to say Trayvon. Yeah, I believe that was a big part of that march. I might be misquoting it, but I believe it was Trayvon. And I had already, you know, I was in school for social justice. So I was already like, that was already my passion. But I think, like you said, I think that did put gasoline on it for me. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, we need to let people know who we are and what we're standing for. When you see me walk up, you need to know what.
And make it very clear.
You need to know. And so it did put gasoline on it. And, you know, at that time, we knew police brutality was crazy. It's always been crazy. But I feel like that's when it started to become, and I hate to say it, more commercialized. We started to see it more on the news.
It was trendy, unfortunately.
Every few months, there was
something else.
Something new. And it wasn't like that when we was in college. It wasn't all the way like that. Like,
you didn't get a chance to see it. It wasn't up in your face.
It wasn't on the news. We might have just read about it somewhere or something like that. Which
I also think like cameras and phones and people recording, I think there was like a different kind of shift in like, you know, I remember I pulled over a few times where I see a black man get pulled over.
I need to make sure you're okay.
I need to, and I'm like, hey, bro, you good?
Yeah.
And I also remember people would do that for my friends, and we would exchange stories. So I do think that there was a shift, and it went from these hush conversations or unfortunate things that happened to somebody else but not me, to where it was in your face constantly. You're like, absolutely not. We're not about to just sit here like this is not happening.
Yeah, and I think another thing that did it for me is my experience at Salisbury. Like so of course I grew up predominantly black neighborhood, predominantly black school my entire life. And then I leave that and I go to college at a PWI where everything is white.
Yeah, the whole town. It's a very small, for those of you guys who don't know, it's a very small area, very small neighborhood, and it is very white. Yeah.
Very white, and not only white, but racist.
Racist and rural at that too.
And rural. So very much giving KKK vibes. I had a lot of racist encounters.
Did you?
I did. That like type things that I would read about in Ruby Bridges or something like that. Yeah.
What?
Really bad. Like I'm talking like freshman orientation
from the very
night.
Beginning.
From the very beginning. And I think that put some type of like something in my soul from always that was like, yeah, like it's really crazy. I had never been around white people before that.
Wow.
And so that really opened my mind to how it could be. I knew that, you know, all white people weren't like that, but it was a culture shock for me for sure. Also a learning experience. I don't know if you remember, but in college, I had an organization called Bridge with a few other girls.
Bridge, yeah.
And it was supposed to bridge the gap between all of the cultures on campus because I was so affected by it. My 2 roommates were racist. Told me straight up when I got there.
Wow.
Yeah, like the experience was very crazy, but nice girls nonetheless, you know? I love when people tell me straight up what they own.
Because at least you know what to look out for.
I'm racist. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
wow.
My experience at Salisbury really, I feel like, carved out, you know, a lot for me.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, knowing that now, because me and you had never talked about that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
right? I stayed on campus a lot, and I was very much to myself. Like I was out but not out.
Yeah.
And you know, my roommates were always Black. It wasn't until I got my apartment that I had a white roommate, and she was really sweet and loved the culture, and she was great, right?
Yeah.
But it was like one semester we were upperclassmen. I was like, girl, try something with these 3 Black girls in here. You know what I mean? But she ended up being so sweet. Her name was Amanda. She was great.
Okay.
But I do also remember feeling very out of place in class. It wasn't until I graduated, Hazel, that I realized I had never had a Black professor. I had never had a Black professor.
You know, now that you say something, I know I had Black professors, but I remember them because they were so few. I remember everything about them because we had so few.
I didn't have not one.
Professors.
Even my counselor, my career counselor or coach or whatever, that person wasn't Black either. And I actually don't remember them. Other than Dr. White, I don't, or you know, the people from Powerful Connections, which is like, you know,
and
like,
thank God for them.
Thank God for them.
Thank God.
Listen. Because those programs, Trio, game changing. Yeah. Really changed the trajectory of my life, right? And so it hit me after I graduated. I was like, damn. And I actually, a part of me is always grateful because things happen the way we happen. We talked about this in the car. But I was like, I wonder if I would have went to a HBCU. I wonder if my experience would have been different.
I always say that. And what's interesting is like, I used to spend a lot of days at UMES, which is University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Which is the HBCU. And
it's down the street from us.
Literally down the street from school. So like, I would be there. People thought I went there.
Yeah.
So I would see the step shows. I would see the fraternities.
Really?
I would see the sororities.
I'm so jealous.
So I was getting like a taste of it. But in retrospect, I wish I would have just went the whole way. I was trying to like, my whole idea of going to a PWI back then was, I want to be a well-rounded citizen, so I need to be around white people.
Yeah, it's that misconception that we have to be around them to be good enough, because if you don't get an education from a PWI, then you won't be successful. But then you graduate and you realize, like, no, you know, HBCUs produce the most Black doctors in America.
Yeah.
And the coursework and the prestige, like the rigor at some of these HBCUs are top freaking tier. Yeah. And I remember also thinking, because, you know, in Baltimore, you got Bowie, you got Coppin, you got Morgan. Yeah. And I remember going on those tours like, I ain't going here.
Well, see, it's a little ratchet, you know?
It reminded me of high school, because I went to high school in Baltimore City. The school doesn't even exist anymore, because that's how poorly we were performing. Right? Like, it was all a Teach for America teachers there. It doesn't even exist anymore. Shout out to Northwestern. So I struggled in school because it was so bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be in that environment anymore. I was really trying to escape. And I was like, I don't want this to be my life. I really want to have a life where I feel safe and there's not things like violence and drugs and all that. Like, I was ready for something different.
Yeah.
And I almost had like PTSD going on campus with UMES. Like, I loved UMES. We definitely went down the street to turn up, and I was like, let me go back where it's quiet. Yeah. And I also remember that sometimes there was like this, it felt like sometimes they bring trouble with them. Like, we would always get our party shut down because things would just get so lit.
Yeah.
And Salisbury was not having any of that. Things that would be very cool and accepted at HBCU. And Salisbury's like, they've gone wild. They're too loud. They're having too much fun. Shut it down. We didn't have parties for weeks, months after it came around. But I really regret that perspective, because I also have that perspective of like, oh, I need to do this to make sure that I'm successful.
Yeah.
And that just was so, you know, misinformed at the time.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that things happen for a reason. So if I ever went to grad school, I would go to HBCU for sure.
Yeah. See, I don't know that I was looking at it like I need to be here to be successful. I think I was really on some, you've been in predominantly Black spaces your entire life. What are you gonna do when you're in a white space? That
never crossed my mind, and maybe I should have been thinking about that.
That was literally my thought. I was like, you don't even know how to talk to white people. You don't even know how to be around them. You don't even know. You can't even pick up on cues, because you need to be well rounded. You need to go somewhere where there are different people that you're not used to. And so that's why I used to try to like couple it with, okay, I'm gonna be at the HBCU every day, because that's home for me.
Yes.
Like, that is what I'm used to. That's what I love.
Yeah.
But once the racist stuff started happening to me, it became more of a, y'all not get me off campus, because it was a lot of Black students leaving because of their experiences.
I remember.
I was like, y'all not get me off campus. I ain't leaving.
When we were in Salisbury, I remember there was like maybe 30 of us and we all knew each other. I went back for homecoming and I was like, who are these people? and they walking around like, first of all, like, who are y'all? Where did y'all come from? There's so many of them. The transfer students were different, babe. Yeah. And I'm like, the audacity, y'all, this is our campus. Like, what do you do? But there was also like a different vibe with them. Yeah. It wasn't as communal.
They were a little isolated. Mm-hmm. I remember being intrigued with them and being like, yo, like, what's your name?
What's your name?
You know, I had
and they being a little reserved and a little scared.
Very reserved, always living off campus somewhere.
Always, they never lived on campus ever.
Yeah,
that's so true.
I remember being intrigued, like, yes, a cool person, another cool person on campus.
Yes.
And trying to get to know them, but they were very standoffish.
They were very standoffish. A lot of them
were very standoffish.
So shout out to Salisbury. We got all the way off. we went all the way down, down memory lane. Okay, mm-hmm. But you know, I'm very grateful for the experience that I had. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I still think even being around white people at a PWI still didn't prepare me for going in corporate America. Because when I tell you I got my ass handed to me, girl, I went in there like, we are unity. Everybody loves each other. If I do good enough. No, baby, no. Mm-mm. No. I had some really traumatic experiences.
I promise you did.
And I was just like, you know, because, like, I'm not naive. Like, you know, obviously, I grew up as a full hijabi in September 11th. And I feel like if I could survive that, like, as a child and, like, all of that stuff where the world really felt like Muslims were dangerous. My dad lost his job immediately following that. There was, like, vicious, very violent attacks in our community where people almost died, right? So, you know, I wasn't naive to that, but I just really didn't think at our big age in 2015, 2014, we would still have overt prejudice and racism and, you know, all of those things. You know, I remember I'd have people saying to me like, oh, I didn't know Muslim women worked. Huh? Excuse me?
Like, if you dumb, just say that.
If you dumb, just say that. If you ain't been nowhere but your little small town, just say that.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, oh, it's just this one situation. But it happened a lot.
All the time, yeah.
And I was just like, damn, am I ever going to be good enough? Am I ever going to be good enough, right? And so I feel like even going to a PWI child, it didn't prepare me. I still had to learn that the hard way, you know? But I'm very grateful because I think kind of like you were saying in Salisbury, that formed you.
Yeah.
Being in corporate America and being a Black Muslim woman, right? I call it the trifecta.
Yeah.
Definitely gave me an appreciation for things like DEI, fighting like the wage inequity, the wage gap.
Absolutely.
And even like discriminatory practices at work, right? Like
even microaggressions,
like having verbiage to these things that I felt viscerally, right? And like the stress, the trauma, the therapy sessions I had to go to like detach my worth from who I was at work.
Yeah.
It was so much. And so I appreciate that because I don't think I ever would have had the courage to have a podcast called like Hustle and Hues where we're talking about Black and brown entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. It's like, well, I want to be inclusive. It's like, if you're not Black and brown and this rocks and you rock with this, great, you're welcome.
You're an ally.
You know what I mean?
I hate these kind of people type of person. I hate these group of people type of person. I am so loving of whomever. If you white, I always tell my white friends, if you're an ally, I'ma rock with you.
Yeah.
As long as you're an ally. Even if you're racist. I've lived with racist people before that who've told me I'm racist. I could still rock with you if you respect me. And if you hear my points and I can hear yours, I ain't gonna
there's
agree
like a
with
respect,
them. There has to be respect at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because racist people gonna be there no matter what, you know. Funny. But you gotta respect.
My husband's from Oakland, and he, when he moved to the South, we moved in Atlanta. He said it was so interesting to see people overtly racist but also kind. Because people in the South, like it's very clear where they stand, but they're still polite. They have that Southern type of charm.
How does that happen?
It's like, you know, that they think of you as less than, but they'll still, you know, hi, please, thank you, versus like in other parts of the country, he's like, it's very, very, very
it's
much
just
so.
nasty.
Just nasty.
Yeah, that is what I'm used to. I've never had the experience where, well, I guess my roommate was probably considered nice, but I always just felt like it was a little fake. Like, girl, you probably don't like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You
but
knew what time it was.
It's fine.
Yeah. So in your current position, right? Like you've done the full-time entrepreneurship. Are you still a full-time entrepreneur at this point?
I am still a full-time entrepreneur.
Okay.
But I am working again.
Are you?
I'm working again, but it's not a full 9 to 5. I'm an independent contractor, so I like to just take contracts.
Okay.
So that I can still have a flexible schedule.
So how does that work though for people who haven't had contract jobs?
I think that is the best way to do it. So pretty much a contract job is you work for yourself and you are giving your services to a job that might need it. Let's say you are good at replacing windows. You're not an actual employee replacing windows from 9 to 5. They might just hire you from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock to do windows every Tuesday and Thursday, and yet you're getting paid a certain amount. There aren't any benefits like health benefits or anything like that, but it's dope because now you have the rest of the day to still do what you want, but you still have other funding coming to you to help you sustain life. And this economy.
Listen, because the economy is playing all of our faces.
Economy is economy.
Girl. Okay. So did you, going back to your trip with Ghana, did you feel like that moment helped you realize that it wasn't that it's America and it's not that it's not working. It's finding a way that worked for Hazel.
Absolutely. Now, where I am right now, it's all about alignment for me. I think now that I have a job, even though it's contracted where I only work a few hours a week, if I had a job out the gate that was my 9 to 5, that is what my contractor job is, I might have loved 9 to 5 life. I might have never became an entrepreneur because that job has aspects of entrepreneurship in it. And they encourage entrepreneurship in it.
Do they?
They do. So I'm an art therapist, for those of you guys who don't know. And pretty much I do programming and activities and seminars around being all types of artists. So things that I already do for free. So
that you love.
That I love. So it's not work to me. When I go, I'm happy. I'm loving my clients that I have. I'm loving interaction. I'm loving my coworkers because they're also like-minded. Like, this is the very first time in my whole life. We graduated from school years ago. Over 10 years ago. This is the first time in my life where I feel like a job understands me, cares about me, cares about my skills, values my skills, and values me. So much so that they have recommended me for so many things. The news thing today, it was because of them while
Tell
I
us
was
about
there.
that, because that was amazing. You told me the story in the car, but I feel like our audience definitely needs to hear that.
Yeah. So I had an interview with CBS News today for the Changemaker Spotlight.
That's so amazing.
And pretty much they highlight a different person, all of African American / Black History Month. And they chose to highlight me. And it's because they found my job and saw the work that they were doing. They asked, like, who do you want to represent? And they said me. And I just never had a job. Even if a job thought or knew I was good, they would never tell me or make me feel like I was valued. And even if you're not getting paid money, you are just happy. So sometimes it's just vibes and happiness.
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I've been abused so much from jobs that
I just want to be happy and at peace.
I'm so happy. And I'm not saying this because if y'all want to pay me more money, y'all can pay me more money. But
we'll drop them this link.
they just value me. Like they've given me raises. They talk to me about doing things with them, in partnership with them. And it's just been beautiful. Like, I never thought I would feel like this about a job.
Wow.
Ever.
What do you feel like you had to do to get this job? Because, right, like, I do think that there's a certain amount of, like, going through the motions, like applying, looking, knowing what your intentionality is. But, like, what work in yourself do you think that you did prior to this opportunity that helped you bring it into full alignment?
If I tell you the story of how the job came, you're going to be like, yo, Hazel, that's crazy.
Please tell us.
Yo, like, so as you know, I guess I can't even say I'm recently in Chicago, but I moved to Chicago after that whole debacle.
Yes.
After quarantine, ended up moving to Chicago, and same feelings of not feeling welcome. I don't have anybody here. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family here. All I had was my boyfriend, and It was in winter. Yo,
Girl.
winter's here.
Let me tell you. So the first time I went to Chicago, I was here visiting a friend, and it was in the summer, and it was gorgeous, beautiful. There was water, and I was like, blew my whole mind.
Yeah.
And then I came back in the winter in September. I said, never again.
Bro, like, first time experiencing winter depression and a mess. Didn't want to leave the house, a mess. So my fiance asked me to go to this art show one day. It was opening night at this art gallery called Miriam Ebram. And I'll never forget, I went and I wore this like colorful jacket that I got from the thrift store. So cute. Long story short, somebody compliments my jacket. Yo, cute jacket. I said, thank you. He said, what's your name? I said, Hazel. He said, oh, I'm so-and-so, da-da-da. We're here from, he names my job. And he's like, man, we're looking for social workers and art therapists with a master's degree. And I'm just like,
did you just read my whole resume just now?
Meanwhile, I'm looking for a job because I think I had gotten fired from my first job when I first got to Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, it was online. I was a social worker for a school, and it was online, and I just couldn't figure out the system.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me, so they fired me.
Yeah.
And so I think that added to the depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I'm a master's level social worker, and I'm into art. Like, he's like, what? He's like, no, we've been looking for one. Fast forward, they ended up hiring me that same week, and we've been rocking ever since.
That's amazing.
It's literally wild how, because I almost didn't go to that show. It's only because Mike was like, you need to get out of the house. We're going to this art show.
Shout out to family and friends who know you.
I'm telling you.
Into you.
I'm telling you.
And that's why he made you a fiance.
I'm telling you. And it's even wilder because I had a card from that company, from my same company that I work for right now when I first moved to Chicago, because I pass it all the time. I'm like, what is this place? It looks so cool. Went in there, tried to find more information. They never contacted me back.
Wow.
So I had already had my eyes set on them.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
And then you ended up getting the job.
Ended up getting the job.
Wow.
And I'm loving it. I'm on the news because of it.
That is so lit.
Fulfilled. It's crazy.
I feel like I have never seen you go somewhere and you don't end up getting featured. Like, you've been in Forbes, you've been in Voyager, you've been all over, which is so amazing.
I'm very thankful. Very thankful.
It's always like, you know, attendee Hazel, and I was like, you literally get picked out of crowds.
Yeah.
Your energy is just that magnetic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that for you.
Yeah.
So at this point, how do you feel like your entrepreneurship journey is different than when you first started? Because now you've got a few years under your belt. You're about to hit 10 years almost.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's insane. I feel like a forever student. I feel like there's always so much to learn. I feel like the curve is always being revamped. I feel like you will never know how to be the perfect entrepreneur because every entrepreneur is doing it different. The one of the girl bosses that I look up to is Pinky from Slutty Vegan.
Girl, you know I got a chance to meet her.
She's amazing.
She's so amazing. She is just as dope in person, and her energy comes off the same way as it does online and in social media.
She is, I don't even want to compare her to Elon Musk because Elon is just Elon, but she is on another level. Like, when I say I'm a student, I look at people like that and I'm just like, wow, I would have never thought of that. Wow, I would have every day there's something new for me to learn, something new for me to add to my toolbox.
Yeah.
And I think as long as I keep that mindset, I will forever be able to grow. Because entrepreneurship is ever changing. You can never know it all.
The technology is changing. The way consumers behave is changing. What they want, what they expect from you.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to also ask you, of course you're a social worker. And I saw a post today, one of my friends sent it to me. She's like, if you want to really learn about who you are, go be an entrepreneur. And I was like, ooh, because it will highlight every insecurity that you have, all of your safety mechanisms, your coping skills. Have you had any therapy or any of that type of support at, like, as you've been navigating like your career and entrepreneurship?
That's so interesting. I actually got into therapy for the first time last year.
Really?
Very first time.
What made you go, if you don't mind sharing?
I wasn't, so, you know, when I first started at Salisbury, I was a psychology major. I studied psychology in high school. And when I finally got my degree, I was like, I am the therapist. What I look like having a therapist. I was like you're going to read these coping mechanisms and you're going to figure it out yourself. You don't need nobody. That was my mindset all the way up until when I had the worst winter of Chicago episode where I was depressed. And it was around that time where I was like, yeah, you might need a therapist, bro. Like, you might need a therapist. My father had passed. I hadn't even gone to therapy for that.
Wow.
Just felt like.
And you and him were super close.
Yeah. I just felt like, oh, you're good. Like, it's not affecting you. It was only when I moved to Chicago where those things started to come out. I think because I was still with my mom and around my family, seeing my friends, I was maybe able to like mask it or, I don't know, distract myself. But I really didn't feel it, and I really didn't have those growing pains until I came to Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it like when you finally went to therapy? Do you feel like it helped?
Over time, because I was very apprehensive. I was like, she don't know what she's talking about.
She don't know what she's talking about. She ain't lived my life.
Yeah, she's just saying something. She's just saying whatever. But
did you go to a Black provider?
I did. I
feel like that's a non-negotiable for me.
Non-negotiable.
You have to understand some of my experience.
You have to. And I actually looked for a Ghanaian therapist.
Really?
Because a lot of what I was struggling with was what we talked about in the car or here, matter of fact, it was never good enough. You know, that really popped out to me. And also just a lot of my upbringing as the first girl in an African family and how much it affects you when you become an adult. I feel like me moving to Chicago was like my real first adult, not living with my mom, no family around, experience, and where I had to face a lot of things and where I had to be like, yo, I'm really like this because of how I was raised. And it's trauma that you don't even recognize as trauma. And so therapy did help. But we got to a point where I just felt like, okay, like I need to graduate to another therapist now. Like I think all that me and her could work on was all that we could work on. But it was probably the best decision I could have made. Yeah. Was to go to therapy.
Therapy changed my life.
Yeah?
Therapy changed my life. You know what? The first time I went to a therapist?
When?
We were in Salisbury, and
I always saw the free therapist and never went.
Let me tell you. So I think we had to go for a training or something. We had to like go to the office or something as part of training. And I was very much like you, very self-aware. I love reading introspective books. Yeah. Like, you know, I was the elementary and middle school kid reading like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I loved that from when I was young. Ashley, we're actually in Ashley's house right now, and who is my resident. Ashley had told me recently that I'd be on duty at the RA desk and I'd be like, you need to come and watch this motivational YouTube video because you need to like manifest your life.
I'm crying.
I was mortified. I was like, what? She's like, I remember that vividly. You were always about like reflecting and like being better.
I told you, you have a very memorable, like, you just were like a figure that was like get it together.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
It's dope.
Girl, I was trying to figure that shit out. But it was funny because we had to go for this training. And I remember going like, I don't have no problems. I don't have no trauma. Like, and especially being an African household, because I feel like we're from the diaspora, like our definition of trauma is on a different level. Yeah. Mom telling you go to your room and you can't play with your friends. Yeah. That don't even register on the Richter scale for us. It's like, did you have food? Yeah. You know, like, did you walk across Africa because of some war or some calamity that befell you and your family, right? Yeah. Like, do you have water? Yeah. You have an education for free. You don't have a dictator. You know, those are things my family went through and so many other families, right? And so I remember like, you know, she's like, you know, do you have any trauma? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, you know, and then slowly we're talking, you know, and then next thing you know, I'm like, is that trauma? She's like, yep. Perfectionism, right?
You don't even realize it.
You don't even realize it. And it just becomes so much a part of you. It took me, I'm still working through unpacking all of the messages that have been ingrained in me as a child. And my parents did a really good job of raising me, I think. You know, I owe them a lot. Yeah. But there was so many things that I'm grateful to have experienced because I want to do things differently when I raise my kids. And I absolutely didn't know. And so it was funny. That was the beginning of my therapy journey was actually back in Salisbury, my first year as an RA. So I was going regularly in school, but then when I graduated, and then there's this whole thing about healthcare, and I realized how expensive therapy is. And I didn't want to go to just anybody.
You wanted to go to somebody good.
I wanted to go to somebody good. And so my profile, who I look for is, because it's like dating, right?
Yeah,
like you have to have your, So my profile was a Black woman who was at least 10 years older than me, had to have been married, had to have kids, had to have experience with people who were not just Black. If you had only ever, supported Black clients or Black patients or whatever you want to call them, I wasn't interested because I didn't need to be explaining how I felt, the cultural things, right? Like if I'm talking about like, I need to, give my mom money and help back home. And she's like, girl, you're barely paying your bills. Like that doesn't make sense. That's not, I didn't want to argue. Like, that post that's like, I'm only dating somebody Black because I don't feel like explaining why.
I need
There's a bucket in the shower. All these
Yeah.
things, right? And that worked out really, really well for me. And I remember there was a point where I was so over uncovering new stuff in my therapy sessions that I was like, if I just go twice a week, maybe we can speed this shit up and maybe I can get over it. And it just didn't end. It's been almost 8 years of me consistently going to therapy, and I'm still learning about myself. And I feel very grounded. I feel like I have a lot of self-awareness, so it's been transformative for me. So I love hearing from entrepreneurs about like what their journey was. So, and I love also how you explained that you had to graduate, because I do feel like there's certain people who can help you with certain things, and you have to date them. If you're not getting the vibes, if I can't share with you openly, I got to find somebody else.
Literally.
And I think people think you're supposed to just go like a doctor's office. You're supposed to go and they're supposed to give you what you need. You're supposed to walk out. And it doesn't work like that.
If you're not feeling validated or feeling like you got something out of it, you need to go.
You need to go. You need to find somebody else. So at this point, have you found someone new, or where are you at now?
I'm lollygagging. I need to find somebody new. I haven't. But I do need to. I think another thing of being an entrepreneur is understanding that healthcare is now different. You have to either purchase healthcare or get on state healthcare, which could also alter things like finding a therapist, finding a doctor, finding a gym,
The reason why I didn't quit my job, so I did have some success in the pandemic with my business. And like, I was like, I mean, it's not millions of dollars.
You was killing it too.
Girl, I just knew I was hot shit.
But you are and was still.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I remember one of my really good friends. I'd be like, my side business. She said, side where? Side business where? You're a whole entrepreneur. I need you to. And it was just like a little like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because of how it's portrayed in social media. Like, oh, I got multiple six figures in Airbnbs. And I, you know what I mean? I work 4 hours a week. And I felt like I'm still a very far away from that. Yeah. And so, the reason why I ended up not leaving my job is because, one of there's a woman named Janice. She has Yo Quiero Dinero, like a podcast and like a platform for Latina women that I really, really love. And she talked about how she left work, and one of the things that she was talking about was like healthcare and like financial planning. And I was like, it was like one of the last things on my check mark before I said the yourselves.
Yeah.
And then I looked up the cost of what I had been so used to at my corporate job. I said, what?
I'm telling you.
I stayed.
Yeah.
Literally, it's the reason why I stayed.
It's so important, and the pandemic made you even more paranoid.
Yes, 100%, right?
Made you even more paranoid.
I said, listen, so me and God had to have a little talk, because I was like, okay, I'm very confused, because every time I feel like I try to settle in and assimilate and do this job because I feel like I'm supposed to be here, and I'm, I just accept that in this season, this is where you want me.
Yeah.
You do something to blow up my life in a really great way. Kind of like, when you went to the march and everybody's asking you, but then when I leaned into it, it kind of backfired. And I think it was just like a pressurizing system to help me refine myself, so eventually I could leave, and I'm not there yet. But I really struggled with how crazy healthcare is expensive, and so many plans don't cover mental health. Girl, I didn't know that, because like I said, I had been going to therapy from the very beginning, so I thought everybody was doing. Yeah. Let me tell you, once I figured out how to finesse therapy, and not finesse by doing anything illegal, let me be clear, y'all. Yeah. But by understanding like, in network providers, some of those sessions were $7. Yeah. I was getting massages as part of like my healthcare strategy for $7, right? Very, very consistently. And I didn't realize, like, oh my God, when people are talking about healthcare in America as a scam, this is what they mean.
Bruh. Like,
I had no idea. I was so ignorant. I didn't know.
I literally, and I forgot to say this, before I got the art therapist job, I ended up getting another school social work job at another school, and we had to go in person. And I kept that job for the same reason. Just ended that last August. This past August that just ended. I kept it for the healthcare. Why do the healthcare plan I got don't cover nothing? That made it so easy for me to be like, you know what? I'm good. Like, y'all ain't covering nothing anyway. So what does it matter? I might as well pay out of pocket. Like, at this point, I'm paying out of pocket anyway.
And then there was a lot of health plans, because I did try to go and see, like, okay, well, what would it cost me to buy it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, like, public plans that you can't even purchase.
Yeah.
With healthcare or maternal leave.
They make it hard.
I'm married.
Yeah.
Like, and
I can have a baby at any time.
I can have a baby at any time. You want me to, like, leave my current plan and pay you all this money to then go back on Obamacare? I should have just done that from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know. And at least in the Texas, with the people I talked to, I'm not an expert, y'all, but this is from the research that I've done and the people I talked to. If you get injured or you want to, like, in my current job, I have a PPO, which is great, which means no matter where I go, I can always find somebody who's in network, right? Amazing. I don't need referrals. Awesome, right? But if you're on Obamacare, at least in the state of Texas, when I was looking, maybe 2021, 2022, if you were outside of your zip code, you didn't have coverage. I said, excuse me?
I mean, I know Texas is big and all, but how, Sway?
Girl, I was like, so wait a minute. Like, my zip, and I asked 2 or 3 different providers to confirm. I was like, I know I'm new to this and I'm not the best, but and they were like, no, you know, Obamacare has, like, general practices that all states have to accept, but then they have the ability to, like, tweak things. So Obamacare in Texas is not the same as in Maryland. It's not the same as in California.
Yeah.
I was like, are you serious? And so I ended up having to stay, because I was like, even if I buy a coverage plan and I'm out of state, I'm always traveling, even for work. Like, there's no way that's going to work. And I was like, I cannot believe that so many people don't have access to healthcare because of this fucking nonsense.
In America, in a whole America, I don't even know. And the older we get, I'm just seeing how everything can be constituted as healthcare. Every little thing. So you telling me people don't have access to find solutions to everyday things that might happen?
Yeah.
It's not cool.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that perspective, and I definitely think, like, if you're listening to this and entrepreneurship is something that you want to do, for sure, go for it. Do it.
Your research.
But do your research, because you know, you never know what can happen. I know, even, like, being young, I never thought that, you know, something like that could happen. But I did have to have, like, a surgery randomly. I never talked about it on social media. I never posted about it. But that was one of the first reasons why I was off the internet for a long time, because I had to have unexpected surgery, and that really me up mentally in terms of, like,
not being ready.
Not being ready, of, like, oh my God, it's just me. Like, what am I supposed to do if X, Y, and Z happens? I don't want to be, you know, a burden to my husband or my family if we're in this together. We had goals and things we're working on, and now I'm, you know, in a bed somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I would really encourage you. You can do this entrepreneurship.
You can.
Stuff. You absolutely can. But I highly recommend, talk to people who have done it, right? Close, right? And be honest about the particulars in your life that you want to sustain in your lifestyle, right? Because for me, mental health is something I cannot sacrifice. That means I have to stay at my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I have grown so much. I wouldn't be here at the place that I am if it wasn't for my spirituality, if it wasn't for my family, if it wasn't for therapy. I advocated for it very highly, but you have to know yourself, right? If that's, you know, for other entrepreneurs, they may not work well with inconsistent income in the beginning because of
they're used to a consistent check.
They're used to a consistent check, or maybe you have, like, poverty mindsets or beliefs that you've had from childhood and from growing up. Like, you know, we grew up on food stamps, so that's a real thing. And not everybody is in a place where they can do that, but you should go into it knowing, and you should talk to people who have done it to make sure that you're prepared, because it can be done.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's no sense of jumping from the pan to the fire in the name of trying to be free. Right? Some people do really well with that. Some entrepreneurs be like, I got fired. Right? Not me. Don't bust these pipes over here.
Yeah.
So, is there any other advice that you would offer in your experience to entrepreneurs, whether they want to make a clean jump, whether they want to finesse their 9 to 5 or a contractor job? I never thought about that till today, right? Like, what would you offer to someone listening who finds themselves in a situation where they're thinking about doing something similar?
I would say, don't compare your story, your journey to anyone else's. If you are a spiritual person or religious person, I would say, like lean on that. Lean on that and listen to the voice of the creator. If that is, you know, your basis, that's my basis. That's a lot of where I've been able to inform a lot of my decisions. I will say though, you don't have to be spiritual to just kind of sit down and have a mindful moment and practice mindfulness. I would say regardless of what you believe in, you could sit down and just go to the pond or the lake or the park, whatever you have in your area, and really think about it. No phone, nobody, just you and your voice, and really think about what it is your brain is telling you. Don't make any rash decisions unless you're a person who can make rash decisions and kind of like
live life on the edge.
I've had life on the edge moments that have actually worked, but I've had life on the edge moments where I fell on my face and I was like, yeah, that was stupid, you know? Yeah, I would just say lean on all of your support systems. Get real advice that doesn't just fall into whatever decision you already think you're gonna make. Like, I'm gonna just ask people that's gonna give me what I want to hear.
Yes,
like,
people.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Really, like, be genuine to yourself and like really figure it out.
I love that. I love that. And mindfulness is something I learned through my third, you know, you talked about evolutions of therapists. It was my third therapist after like year 5 or 6, who talked to me about mindfulness. I was like, you know, like just thinking. And she's like, no, it's not just thinking, girl.
Yeah.
But I also do think that spirituality is a big thing for me.
For me.
Oh my God.
Huge.
Like, there's no way I could have manufactured this vision of my life today. All right. Like, I have bigger things I want to do, but even where I'm at today, from where my parents came from where we grew up, you know, in Baltimore City, like, it just doesn't make sense how we made it.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm talking about me and my family specifically. And there's no rational explanation other than God in my mind.
Has to be.
Like, it just doesn't work any other way. So spirituality is big. But with the mindfulness thing, I have found through journaling. I don't know if you journal.
People keep telling me to journal. And I just, again, this is the stubbornness in me that I need to get out. I don't want nobody finding my feelings.
You know what?
You just picking up, finding my diary, finding my feelings. So I just have always been against it. But
that's so funny.
I did it one year and I didn't write. I put it in my phone, in my notes. And I did feel a little better. Yeah. Never went back to read it. But now that you said it, I'm going to
go back and read it.
Go back and read it and see what's in there.
Yeah. I would love to know. Like, I love going back and reading stuff.
Yeah.
There was an exercise that I had heard someone when I was really young. And basically it was like some little girl, and she was coming home to her mom crying about some boy who did her dirty, right? Some little boy who, you know, didn't want to play with her in the sandbox, something like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, she went to her mom. Her mom was like, this is not going to matter in a few years. I promise you'll be okay. I love you. You're beautiful. And the little girl didn't get it. And so her mom came up with the idea to like show her daughter her journal from when she was the same age in her like scriggly, ugly handwriting. And, you know, so the little girl's reading it and it's like, Tom didn't eat lunch with me and he gave his chips to Sally. Wow. And the little girl is reading that and it sounds so silly because it's her mom.
Yeah.
And she can see her mom now as a grown woman, as a mother.
All put together.
And it all puts together like, is that going to be me about this? And even though that wasn't my, I don't even remember where I heard that.
That's fire.
Some random shit, you know, I was really weird.
That's fire though.
So I always loved journaling because I was like, someday this is going to be funny.
Do you keep it?
Oh my God. I have journals from years ago. I have journals from Salisbury, journals from high schools, chronological years. Yes, I have a lot.
You could make a book when you grow up.
I read entries from 2 months ago. Like, girl, what was we talking about? Like, totally different person. And I find I can hear myself the most clearly, like my true essence of who I am, like the spirit of God, who my parents raised me to be, like my real essence when I write. Literally, I write, I don't think I've ever said this out loud. I write like as if I'm talking to myself. Like, what's wrong, girl? What's up with you? And I'd be like, I don't know. I write it like that.
Yeah,
and I
fire.
always get super, super clear, very solid answers with myself. And it's always been really, really healing for me.
Wow.
To read it back.
I've started video journaling.
Ooh. On some Beyonce, you know how Beyonce said that. I tried it and I said, because I be snot-nosed crying sometimes when I'm journaling.
Watch that thing back. Watch it back.
I can't do it. I was like, you know, and then also, you know how these people talk about on social media, I can't turn on a video while I'm crying. Like, oh, I'm crying in this moment. Let me go get my phone.
Yeah.
It's so cringy to me. Like, I get it. And I think that it's important for some people. I could never.
I never posted, but what I will say is around the time I thought my fiance was going to propose to me, I didn't want to talk to nobody about it. I didn't want to ruin it. Nothing. So instead of like asking like, yo, you think you about to propose to me? I just started making a video journal. And I just think that is a microcosm. I had never tried that before, but I didn't know who to run to. I mean, of course I prayed about it, but I didn't know who to run to physically. And so I watch it back now and I laugh because I was talking to myself how you was talking to yourself in your journal. And I'm just like, yo, what if I did this for everything? What if I did this every time there was like a conundrum in my life? How different?
Did it feel healing? Did you feel like your best friend? Oh my God. There was a book I read recently about narcissism because somebody had brought up that, and I had heard that term thrown around. You know how like when we were younger, I feel like bipolar was thrown around all the time. It was the trendy therapy word, and I feel like
narcissism is now.
Yeah. So I was like, what is it? Let me go read about it.
Yeah.
And in the book, it talks about how at some point as an adult, you can't blame your parents and the people who didn't love you and support you like you needed. Eventually, you have to learn you can be your own parent yourself.
You can do the inner work.
Girl.
Sheesh.
And that really f***ed me up because I was like, explain that, like break that down in a way that I can understand. I'm a very like literal example person. And it's like, when you feel sad and when you feel hurt or embarrassed or shame or whatever, any of these emotions, imagine your younger self, right? Like a child, 5, 6, 7, comes to you with these feelings. Aside from the fact that like we're talking about a job and this is adult content, the emotions are still very primitive, right?
Very much the same.
I wouldn't tell a 5-year-old, stop crying, suck it up, like, oh, let's talk about it. How do you feel? Like, are you okay? What do you want to do? You want ice cream? You want to journal? You want to go read? You want to do breathing exercise? Whatever. And it never occurred to me I could do that for myself.
Literally.
I could do that for myself.
Like I can parent myself. It just seems silly when you say it, but when you do it, it's so freeing.
It's so healing.
Yeah.
So healing. And it takes back your own power.
Yeah.
Right? And you always know Brene Brown does some really great work on shame and belonging. I don't know if you know her work. She's an amazing, amazing scholar. She's been featured on Oprah a bunch of times. I love all of her books. And she talks about she loved Maya Angelou's work, but there was one thing Maya Angelou said that she just could not wrap her brain around, and it bothered her. And she said Maya Angelou had said that she belongs to nobody and to everybody. And that really messed her head up because she's like, how does that work?
I'm over here like, carry the one, drop the two.
And basically Maya Angelou's like, I belong to me. I belong to me. When there's no one else, I belong to me. When I go into a room, I can be a part of everybody and be a part of myself because I know who I am. And I always belong to me. I fit in with me.
Yeah.
Have you ever walked into a room and you immediately feel like, I don't know if I fit in with y'all.
Yeah.
Right? But having the confidence of you're never alone because you're always with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like a great like ninja brain moment for me because it also coupled with that whole thing of parenting yourself.
Yeah.
And that gave me a new level of confidence.
I say confidence.
Every space. Yeah. Of like, I belong to me. I'm never by myself because I always got me at the end of the day. And God.
Yeah.
100%.
Always for sure. I will actually keep that in the back of my mind whenever I'm like, I don't have any friends in Chicago. I don't have any family here.
Yeah. And it's so weird because, and I'm going to send you the clip. I think I'm going to drop the link to whatever she was talking about in the show notes because I think I love shit like that, right? I love stuff like that, like just blow my mind, right? And I also think in terms of the loneliness, like I moved away from Maryland the same way you did. Girl, let me tell you, I don't think I've ever told anybody this story. So when I moved to Maryland, or when I moved from Virginia, to Atlanta, I was moving because something told me I needed to be in Atlanta. I was looking to get married. I was looking to be in a more diverse neighborhood. And I was like, I'm not going to marry the men that I'm seeing because I want a certain type of person. I need to be where they are, right? I need to put myself in a position to win for God to, do his work. And I remember I was by myself in Atlanta. And when I first moved there, I was really proud of myself that I had mustered up the courage to like leave everything. Because people like, girl, you leaving where?
Yeah, people always be like, you're leaving?
Oh my God, how do you do that? And I'm like, I packed shit up and I left.
Yeah.
But, you know, when the door closed and, you know, the ADT system is armed, and I'm like, damn, I really could be in here on the floor for 3 days and no one would know. No one would know.
Scary.
It's scary. And I remember I was trying to make my apartment feel really nice, right? And so I had bought, girl, I was like on some Miss Independent shit to the 10th. I went to IKEA. First of all, I went on Pinterest. I made all of my boards. I love Pinterest.
I love it.
I love Pinterest. And I figured out what I was going to do. I was going to make me a little entertainment, but on a budget.
Come on.
What? So then I have a Civic, y'all. I went there. I didn't think this through, but I was like, whatever I need to put in the car is going to fit in this damn Civic. And the bookshelves, you know, the Billy bookshelves are long as hell. They're like 7 or 8 feet long. Yeah. And I got the extension on top of them. Ooh. Do you know I dropped all those seats in the car, took off the headrest and everything?
As you should.
What?
Did it not fit still?
It definitely did. It fit. Period. And even till this day, anytime I'm putting something in the car, I'd be like, that's not going to fit in the Civic. I'm like, watch me.
Yeah. Take the headrest off. Put it back on later.
Move the subwoofer. Yes, I have a subwoofer in my trunk.
Period.
So anyway, so then I get there. My apartment was on the second floor because I never like to do apartments on the first floor.
Yeah, because they're like ground level.
Yes, period, right? Yeah. And the bookshelves were 100 pounds. And I wasn't going to ask anybody to help me. Girl, I lifted these bookshelves. It took me like 45 minutes, one step at a time to get them into my room. I literally almost died. Determined.
Yo, the move-in when you're Miss Independent is a nasty time.
What?
It's because you're trying to do it all by yourself. Body be hurting for 2 weeks.
100%. 100%. When I tell you I literally almost lost my life trying to take that up the stairs. And then I had not put furniture together, but I was sure determined. I went to Home Depot. I got all my tool sets. I still have that tool set till today. Right? Assembled all this furniture, listening to Mary J. Blige, My Life, just crying.
Yo.
Because it was just me and
yourself.
me. That was it.
I'm really wondering, now that you're telling me the story, I'm wondering if other Black girls have this experience of when they first moved. And what was the album you
cried to when you were unpacking your
like that? I like that.
Did you have one?
I feel like I had a few. I was just listening to music.
Mary was on repeat. Bryson Tiller had just come out. That album was so sad but triumphant at the same time. That was on repeat for sure. Yeah. Those two albums I listened to. Man.
I'm even drawing a blank as to what I was listening to when I first moved to Chicago, but I know something was in rotation.
Mary said, when you look at my life, do you see what I see? And I was like,
look at my life, do you see
come on, crying, just assembling this furniture. My life. But you know what? I got through that moment. And then I remember the first time I had like a dinner party. I had never entertained, and I was determined to be like the Martha Stewart. Like, I don't know why.
Promise you. And I'm not her anymore. I thought I was going to be her. I never made it to her before.
Girl, you know what? I actually did pretty good. I stuck with it, and I've done bigger and bigger events, and I really love entertaining now.
Yeah.
And I remember people commenting, I have those bookshelves. I have brought those bookshelves from Virginia to Atlanta to Dallas.
Because what they mean to you.
What?
Yeah.
I remember. Yes.
You're coming with me.
And they're in pristine condition because the mover, literally, there's like the couch that we bought that's like, I don't know how much money. And then I'm like, don't up my bookshelf.
Yeah. Because you don't know what I went through.
Girl, you don't know what I went through to get these bookshelves. Because I also, I had to be extra. So I got the glass inserts. I put the LED lights on the top.
Oh, yeah.
With the remote to set the vibe. No.
Yeah.
I don't care if they go in a basement or somewhere, but they're very monumental.
Who would have thought we would have been sitting here talking about furniture?
Girl,
I'm loving it. Like, girl, what else you got? What?
I've never told anybody that, I don't think. So, it's so crazy, the evolution, of Black women in America. Like, all of their stories are so dope.
Yeah.
So dope. And it's just, there's also so much that I think we go through by ourselves thinking there's nobody else, girl,
that can relate to it. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, it's very relatable. Mm-hmm. Very relatable. Like, extrememely relatable.
Do you feel more settled now that you're in Chicago? Do you feel like now you got a fiance? And we love Mike. Mike is amazing. His energy is great.
He's everything.
Yes.
I wish he was sitting right here.
Because I'm sure he would tell us some good stories,
He would. I'm sure. He'll tell you stories that I probably don't even remember.
Like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
So how are you feeling now that you have been in Chicago? You've had therapy. It feels like you're coming into more peace and more of yourself in this season of your life. How does that feel, though?
It's very interesting because I do feel more rooted in Chicago. For a lot of since I've been here has been like, I don't have any of my genuine, real friends here, and I have to make friends. And it's not like high school where you can just go and make friends. You have to be strategic about how you're making friends.
Intentional. You have to put effort.
You have to put effort, just like any other relationship. I didn't have family here, but I also started to not recognize the family I did have.
Ooh, like, girl, we could do a whole episode on
I'm telling you, like, people are there for you. Like my work family, I consider them family now. Mike's parents, always like looking out for me. Like even my friends that I have in Chicago now, like lifelong friends will probably be in my wedding, will be my kids' aunties and uncles, you know, that will do things. The Village just tweeted that last night.
Did you?
I tweeted, it takes a village. And my last post, it's the quota's in there, said it takes a village. And I'm very thankful for mine. You know, like a lot of living as an adult by yourself is like, you can't do it by yourself. You're doing it by yourself, so you tell yourself that you're by yourself, but you're not by yourself. And so I think now that I'm coming into that and finally have a job that I like and a partner that I love and family and friends, and I can stand on my own 2 feet, you know, without a cheat code of, my mom lived down the street. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I think I needed to completely hop off the porch for me to be like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I used to trick myself out like, you were only successful in entrepreneurship because you were staying with your mom. Or you were only
discounting your success.
Always. I will always do it. I do it now. But now I'm like, no, like you really came to a brand new city where you didn't know anybody, you didn't have friends and family, and look at you. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've done. Had to tell myself that today. Like, look at what you've done. It's not good enough this time, because what can you tell yourself this time? How did your job got it? Well, how'd you get the job? It's all you. So be thankful, bask in it, feel like it's yours, own it. Because somebody else will be very happy to own it.
Okay, listen, I love that. I absolutely love that. I feel like I love what you said about like realizing that your family relationships are different. I legitimately think that could be an episode by itself. But I do think that there is a transformation that happens when you get to learn yourself. I think the last piece of it, because I know for me, growing up as becoming an adult, where I feel like I could say like I'm grown, right? And it took me a while to get to the point, right? If I'm being honest, but I feel like the safe place to do that is with your friends first, right? Like, you know, at least me, I don't talk to my parents every day, all day. Some people have that relationship. That's great. I don't. So, and especially because we're so far, right? We're not up under each other. They're not in the same city they weren't in the same city for a long time. And so I had a chance to kind of morph and change and experiment with my friends. Like, okay, this is not something I want to do anymore. Or, you know what? I'm okay with the fact that I love these things about me, or these are the things that I'm into now, and being more comfortable with that. But then when you go home, I think sometimes
they expect for you to be the same.
It's kind of like going back into like a time capsule where they're like expecting me from 2-3 years ago. I'm like, girl, you done missed the therapist. You done missed the you know what I mean?
No more.
That's not me anymore.
I'm struggling with that.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's like, sometimes, I'll speak for myself, sometimes people can equate your growth to like a personal attack.
Yeah.
When it has nothing to do with them.
She forgot about me. Oh, she thinks she all
that. She thinks she all that.
Yeah.
Because you got this business.
Yeah.
Oh, because you on Instagram. So I don't give, I don't care about your followers. That's not real.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you got a little money. You're not humble anymore.
Yeah.
And when that comes from your family, people who depend, it hurts.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I said it doesn't faze you. There was lots of therapy sessions for that.
Yeah.
Lots of therapy sessions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of family members who do that because they really feel like they're protecting you from things that they're afraid of.
Yeah, they project on you.
Projecting on you. And it's so hard to separate that from who you are, while also, because I think both of us really do value family. Family is very important.
Big,
so it's like
big important.
So how do I have this space for myself while also honoring the fact that we're in a different place and you can have your opinion. I still love you.
Yeah.
But I won't dim my light or shrink to make you comfortable when I see you once or twice or 3 times a year, whatever the case may be. Right?
I agree with that. I mean, to your point, it's definitely the last step, because I feel like I'm in that step right now where even they compare how often we were coming home from Salisbury to how often I come home now. It's not that I don't love you, but it was different for me to drive over the Bay Bridge versus flying from Chicago.
And these ticket prices, baby.
Listen. But then they'll see you on a vacation and be like, well, you're going to Mexico.
Ooh, that shit burns me up. And it's like, it's not the same.
It's not. I had to go on a vacation for my mental health. I had to.
That concept also is a foreign concept because, you know, especially if your parents are refugees from back home, there's no such thing as mental health. Yeah. And there's damn sure not, I went to Mexico for my mental health, which is a real thing. Go to Mexico if you haven't.
Go to Mexico.
It was amazing, right? Yeah. So how have you been navigating that?
It's weird because our parents are not where we are. When you, or not even just parents, our family, all the time. A lot of me these days, I just want to talk about it. I want to see how you're feeling. I want to see how we can find a solution, how we can work towards doing it.
Harmony.
But they too need therapy.
Girl.
And they are not talk toable a lot of the times until they are able to face a lot of their ways. Whereas I've faced a lot of my ways. I'm not perfect. But for me to want to talk to you and get to the bottom of it and you're not even comfortable to have a conversation, you're just okay with things just being how they are. And with me being over here and you being over there, it's a lot of space for me to just be like, well,
that's what it is what it is.
It is what it is. And
like, I love you from afar and I wish you the best, but I'm not going to compromise the space that I fought through the mud for.
Yeah, nobody was there. I had to do it myself. And when you're ready, I'm going to be here for you. And I'm encouraging you to go to therapy because
and to care for yourself.
To care for yourself.
People, something else that I read one time was that people can only love you to the capacity that they found to love themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
That's major.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, let's say for example, you decided like today, oh, I can't do the interview anymore. Like, I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
If I haven't done that work and I don't know, like, yeah, that's what self-care looks like, I could get mad at you. I could be like,
she said, she said she was going to do it.
Or take it personal, like, what she thinks she better than me? Or, damn, I thought we were better than that. Versus like, oh, girl, I've been there. Take your time. Yeah. We will figure it out, you know? So I think that that's a big thing, too. So I'm proud of you that you're in this space because it's not easy. It is very hard and you have to do it by yourself because even if you have a spouse or really great friends, those tough conversations,
you can't do it with them.
You can't
do it with them. They'll be there to support you, but you can't even do relationship with your friends and your spouse until you do it with yourself. It's not happening. I don't care what you say or what you do, and I think that's why like, I love that all my friends are in therapy. Yes. And I love that my partner is in therapy. And because now we can work together. Now we can be like a puzzle and it's not like I'm always fighting to get us to a certain place. But man, I love it. I've realized that all relationships take work. Real work. Not just, hey girl, how you doing? And expecting for her to feel as close to you. Or, hey little bro, like, effort, real effort, you know?
Vulnerability too.
Vulnerability, like, yo, I was struggling this last month. You know, don't charge it to me. Like, let's go out and catch up. They appreciate that.
And being honest.
I'm not Superwoman. I can't do it all. I can't afford to come back home 10 million times this year. And it's not personal to you. I hope you understand.
Have you done the thing where you go back home but you don't tell nobody because you just don't have time to see everybody?
I used to do that in college. I used to do it in grad school. All the time.
All the time, like, listen, I wasn't here. You ain't see me.
Yeah, all the time. Now, I would feel like crazy doing that.
It's like, I just need my peace, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to...
Oh, I've been there. What? I used to come home damn near every weekend from New York and just be in the DMV in Love nightclub.
That's so funny.
Wherever, just outside, not telling my mom and not telling none of them I was home and just enjoying life and then going back like nothing happened. But I look at that and be like, yo, that's dirty. Like that is so foul. Why would you do that?
I think you do what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
And if you just don't feel safe, to be honest about like, I'm going to say hi to you real quick, but I don't have time to just sit on the couch
and I'm
chill.
not staying here. So see you later, alligator.
You think this is like a hotel? You can't just come in and that's the whole thing.
Now I gotta be back home by 9 p.m.
like I'm not grown.
Bye. I'm not coming, bro. I'm just not coming.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for stopping by because I feel we'll just keep talking. So
no, literally, because we're like catching up at the same
time. Yeah, and I love that for us.
Yes.
So, do you want to tell the audience about anything you got coming up or anything? I know I'm wearing a hoodie that I think you said is coming out.
Yes,
can I say that? Is that okay?
You can.
Okay.
So I did a pop-up in Chicago where I released these hoodies that you guys will probably be seeing on the website probably by the time this comes out. So that's great timing.
Yeah.
Of course, in Chicago, I'm going to have a lot of programming happening in different places, different spaces, and a lot of different collaborations. I'm in a space now where I'm hoping to collaborate with brands that I align with. And also I want to do more FISTS UP AFROS OUT collaborations with bigger brands. So I'm really excited about that. I want to do more panels. So I know South by Southwest is coming up. I
didn't know about that until I saw you post about it.
Really?
And I haven't been, because I think you posted it and then I think it was the pandemic was the next year. Because I was like, oh, I'm going to Texas. And then it was like, shut down. Just kidding.
Dang, yeah. I will go this year if I've been pitching myself. That's another thing that I've been doing is like pitching myself to people that I would want to be a part. Hey, I see you're having this conference. Are you looking for any more panelists? These are my skills. This is what I can do.
I love that.
Yeah, very tedious work.
It's hard.
Very hard work, but I feel like I'm at the level now where I just can't wait for opportunities to fall into my lap. Yeah. I have to be. So that's my thing. And what comes with that is not going out on weekends, not being able to be on the phone all the time with my friends, not being able to be on the gram as much and TikTok and all of that. In hindsight, it's cool, but like I'm getting success from pitching, hotel deals and different. Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to really focus on that moving forward.
Go ahead and get us a Ghana contract. We talked about that in the car. Like I'm ready to go with you to Ghana. The next time you go,
listen,
let's tell
I gotta pack you up.
Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Passport's getting renewed right now.
Real?
Yeah. Because I'm going to London to see Beyonce with Ashley and Allure. Girl, we turn it up. Turn it up.
Come on, Beyonce tickets.
I'm so excited.
I still haven't seen her live ever. I need to see her live.
Do you want to come to London?
I don't know. How much are the tickets?
$300?
You know what I hate? Let me not say hate about this year, but it's a lot of like having to have self-control this year because now we're saving for a wedding and it's the first time.
You look so annoyed.
I have to like not go to places. I'd be like, we
hell
out.
Yeah. What day y'all going?
Yeah, but now it's like you gotta save for the wedding.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well,
but thank you for having me.
Yes,
I really appreciate
coming.
This is
amazing.
A breath of fresh air. Like
I hope you felt comfortable.
You have always been that to me. Like always have been that. Since Salisbury. So
I appreciate that.
I'm appreciative.
I think I haven't, you know how you said you love hearing how people perceive you?
Yeah.
People don't really tell me, so I don't get a chance to hear that. Especially
you should ask. Like people that you've known in college.
So let me formally ask you, like, what do you remember about me in school?
I remember Crew.
Crew.
Do you remember Crew? Crew was the white gospel worship group.
I was in Crew?
You wasn't in it.
Because let me tell you, I love a gospel choir.
You wasn't in it, but I would see you go to the events. I remember you
I love gospel choir.
It was low-key good.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you as an RA, of course. I just remember you being like a very good speaker. Powerful connections. You always had a mentee with you.
Yes.
Like very much like a mentor, very good like person to strive after. Always had a presence to you like engraved in your mind. Like I know when you come around the corner, like she mean business. But not even in a bad way, but like in a that's a boss.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. For sure.
And I've always gotten that free creative spirit from you. Like, I'm going to do it, but my way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I love that we've been able to stay connected. Thank God for the internet.
I swear.
I don't know what people did before that.
I swear. This is literally a breath of fresh air. And you don't realize how much time has elapsed.
Because it feels like it was yesterday.
I'm telling you look the same. You look like I just seen you on campus yesterday.
100%. 100%. Thank God. Listen, Black don't crack, because you look really good.
Thank you.
Literally just like I left you off of campus.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So this won't be the last. We will do this more often. And but yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable.
Yes.
And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.